Right, okay. So we're back and we're gonna try and well, there's a couple of things. Let's. Oh, I meant to eat some scrap. Yeah, we'll just do it now. Did I have the Greenway cipher? So I can actually crack the Greenway gate here. The cloud. The Greenway roils beneath you like a silt-choked river. If what Navigator said was true, then no one has accessed these networks since the collapse. The Hunter and Killer protocols have never set foot here, never cleared out the intelligences and systems. So why, you wonder, does it look so dark? Is it just that the bit rot has set in? The entropy of systems reducing everything to shadows and light? You watch as the slotted cipher fizzles into the one open, distorted gateway on this entire rim of the station. It flickers and then winks out, and then you're falling into the flow. A river of swirling darkness. You're spun by it, twisted by it, lost in it. It's not that the Greenway was hiding in the darkness. It is made of darkness. It's filled by this substance, this process, this swarm. Now you're among it. You notice the swarm is exactly what it is, 1 billion individuals moving in a flow. There is no network map here, no nodes, no threads. Only a storm of interchangeable points shifting configuration endlessly. And then you see them. A figure turned away, the only bright spot in the dark river. You push closer through the storm. They're facing away. At least you think so. They're so fractured, so overgrown that it's hard to tell. Even from this distance you can see their flesh is moving, flowing. You watch silent as they stoop and reach down. In their hand is a dark shape, and with twisted fingers they press it down into the loam of the data beneath them, pushing it through this trembling soil. Then they move away, go a little further and repeat the process, as if they were sowing a field. You push forward, but somehow, despite their slow and deliberate speed, they move faster, and they quickly fade into the storm. You reach the point where they planted the object and look down. There it is. A glassy, shifting polygon, something inside. You reach down and pick it up. It's cold, but it thrums with energy. You look towards the path of the figure, but they're long gone. When you blink out of the cloud, back to the leaves and dappled light of the Greenway, you hold a seed in your hand. Seed, you need to find somewhere safe to plant this gift. That's episode Flux. Do you plant it in the wastes? Do you... This is Conway access. Maybe you just plant it in here. so that's Rico, the commune botanist. It's a Hyphae dorm. Ah, so we've got a place to sleep over here. The Hyphae commune can have a work assignment. Oh, guess I didn't. Let's talk to this Rico. You head down into the Hyphae commune, following a blue painted line that is labelled laboratories. The member you were assigned to work with told you they'd asked to see you, but you still have no idea what about. The line takes you to a blue door and through to a glass-roofed chamber where a network of stems and leaves filters the sunlight coming through the ceiling, casting the whole chamber in a strange yellow-green. Peaceful, isn't it? Distracted by the green, you miss the woman standing at a lab bench, camouflaged by the dappled light. Welcome to my sanctuary. She smiles. Come, let's talk, she says and beckons you closer. Of course, my apologies. She offers a hand to shake. I'm Rico. I run the botany program at Hyphae. What is Hyphae? She looks surprised. You've been working in the compound for a while now. I'm surprised you don't know more. She lifts a tiny sample jar of yellow spores, dance inside it. Hyphae lives off the land of the Greenway. It's what allows us to live like we do. No one here pays or is paid. We sleep here, we feed each other, we work for each other. Rico walks away from the bench and waves for you to follow. She opens a small door and leads you down a glass corridor surrounded by a vivid green. All this, she says, gesturing at the overgrowth. It's kind of a miracle. She looks at you with bright eyes. What do you think usually happens to plants on stations like this when they're abandoned? They keep growing? If only that was true. No, they do not. They dry up and then they die. She leads you left at a crossroads. But here they endured. Actually, no, they thrived. You look at the bright tendrils wrapped around the metal frames of the corridor. They look dominant, strong, like they're taking control of this place. Of course, Solheim tried to create a stable biosphere here, patchworking the surface with gardens and algae tanks that feed into a network of microbial reclamation systems. But the Greenway was always envisioned as extractive, a place from which the harvest is removed and sold to those living on the station, not a closed loop. For this reason, when the collapse came, the Greenway should have gone with it. Erlin himself was so convinced of it that his first colony never even came here to try to reclaim it. The Eye instead relied on outside favours and influences, shipments from the inner system and small-scale agricultural systems like kelp and fungal farm stacks. And yet here we are among growth and decay, a biosphere flourishing. When Hyphae came here, we expected to find only vacuum-dried stalks and leaves, and perhaps some fungal colonies hidden in the mulch. But we found a jungle. With this, Rico hits a button on the wall and leads you through to a large pair of double doors and a huge impossible chamber. Every kind of green, from the pale algae tanks to the dark vines that surround them. It is wet too, a rarity on the Eye. Condensation clouds the light from the high glass roof and gathers on the shiny broad leaves of shrubs. Did you do this? Oh no, not me. Rico turns to you, visibly excited by the room you're both standing in. It doesn't make sense, but in many ways the system is stabilized. Unlike the farm stacks closer to the gap, who need input to support their meager output, this place runs itself. Perhaps Solheim managed something new here. Perhaps they tweaked the plants or built new systems buried deep below us. Or perhaps their collapse caused some unfortunate cascade, an unlikely chemical reaction within the biosphere. That's what I'd like you to help me find out, she turns to you, her forehead wet with dew. Me? Aren't you the botanist? Astutely noticed, but I don't need a botanist. She sits on a railing. These holes run deep, sleeper, and I'm getting old. She stamps her feet on the metal grating of the walkway. Whatever is causing this, it's to be found in the groves deep in the Greenway. Haifa won't spare anyone for an expedition. It's too dangerous and unnecessary, they say. I can make the case, but I can't get the votes. You sleepers are hardy beings. I know that much. And you can speak to the eye, uncover its secrets in ways I never can. She holds out an arm so you can help her stand. Bring me samples, spores, seeds, and blooms. I can grow them in the lab and study them. The deeper they're found, the better. I will try. Thank you. And thank you for listening. She leads you back out of the huge chamber and through the passages. She's a little slower now and stumbles on the steps. You help her where you can. It's good to have new blood in the commune, she says. Many of us have been here a long time, and few come through. She settles back at a bench on the lab, stretching her legs. You go to leave. Come back if you find something, sleeper. There are discoveries to be made. And you follow the blue line back up out of the compound, all the time thinking of that impossible magical green. So, my guess... Oh, she just wants spores here. But my guess is that eventually we can give her the seed. That's my guess, anyway. But for now, I want to slot this Ripper Worm. The worm tunnels in and starts looping data through the node. Conway facility opens up to you. Godspeed, Feng. As you slot the worm, the thread jumps out of the facility. It unspools in front of you, releasing its data like ink in water. Sleeper, Feng's voice crackles through, moving in. Nodes, then ports. A whir of interference. Slot the worms. Timer starts now. Stay safe. Thread dissipates. You're on your own now. The first layer of security, a ring of doors around the central facility. Time to open them up. Layer F. So we've got this one to do. Wants a 5, sure. And you want a 4? One more Ripper Worm. Layer X unlocked. Six, 6, and a 5. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to grab some scrap. At least one scrap there. And the steel. Let's just collect some spores. Just leaves us with... Fine. Just buy some food. Oh, yeah. Take the scrap. End the cycle. Ugh. Ugh, that is a horrible set of dice rolls. That is better. You need a 6. You need a 5. You are 2 6s. Let's go back here. Let's sunbathe, get some energy back. Repair. End cycle. That's one of the 6s. Still got this one. There we go. And then the final Ripperworm. The Ripperworm chews through camera control. The moment it does, a thread shoots from the facility. A thread from the facility cuts through the cloud like a hairline crack of light. That's it. The final layer of security broken. Somewhere buried in the depths of the station, Feng is in control. He's slicing into the camera control circuits and piping out the result. The thread flickers and unravels into an image, a scene. 2 figures in a room, one sat, the other pacing. The pacing figure resolves into Hardin. The unmistakable superior posture, the shock of grey hair. The second figure's features don't seem to resolve, they're vague, unformed. A problem with the data, perhaps? You look closer. Then you see it. The figure is a proxy. Perhaps you should have expected it from Conway, a corporation whose very existence is owed to automation. The proxy is a machine designed to be piloted by remote connection. Someone's elsewhere in the system, puppeteering it with their own body, speaking so it may speak. The proxy sits impassively, or the Conway executive that is piloting them does, from the distant safety of some ship or orbital colony, perhaps. We can move forward, there is no doubt, Hardin is saying. The reclamation teams are almost ready, and after that I will make the declaration. Nothing has to change. Proxy leans forward, its movement stilted, uneven, as if its body was being refracted through water. But things must change, Hardin. We need further assurances. I have been informed of a breach in one of the closed networks in the low end. You have been careless. Hardin waves the accusation away. We have been stretched. A breach was detected, yes. No data of value was lost. Our board is concerned, Hardin. A drop in our value would be unwelcome at this time. Proxy leans back, its posture dominant. If the reclamation of Ash-1 is contested, then we could be drawn into a compromising legal position. Hardin approaches the proxy. There will be no contest, not from Solheim, who cannot muster a defense, not from Havenedge, who will fall into line below me. He crouches in front of the seated figure, eye to eye. The people of this station? Refugees, gangs, spacers, or either opportunists or degenerates. Havenage is no longer strong, no longer united. No one here believes in Erlin's vision, nor has the strength to enact it. I sat across from him at the negotiating table. He was forceful, eager, weakened by his ideological convictions, perhaps, but a great man nonetheless. This place no longer deserves to bear his name. The Eye is crippled, it cannot survive. It is a ruin filled with squatters and outlaws. They will be lucky if it still spins in 100 cycles. Hardin stands. You will move forward with the reclamation because otherwise you will lose your advantage in this system. Without your advantage, you will lose claims on the remaining palladium. Without the palladium, your factories will go dark. Do I need to continue? One moment comes a response from the proxy, and its head drops to its chest. Hardin steps back and paces once more, awaiting the discussion taking place elsewhere in the system. You watch Hardin as he paces, as he considers his future. What goes on within a mind like that? In the mind of a man who would burn all those around him for a path to some imagined golden end. The proxy lifts its head. We are happy to proceed. We will legally claim the station formerly known as Solheim Ash 1 as salvage within 6 cycles. Havenage is to assist with the transport of illegal residents to Conway housing and labour facilities. Proxy judders to its feet. Conway will also claim 70% of the raw output of the reclamation process, after losses have been accounted for. Holland nods. I accept. The proxy reaches out to shake his hand like a marionette, and then the recording loops. You watch it play out a second time, gripped by a horrified fascination. There is a bluntness to the conversation, to its blatant disregard for humans as anything other than objects. Things to be moved, to be used, to be fed into structures, crushed, and losses accounted for in the cells of tables, the margins of ledgers. You realise now that you're no different from anyone else on his station in the eyes of people in that room, and those like them. Each body here can be recast as a piece of property, tool, an expense, an acceptable loss. In one moment they can be named a citizen, celebrated, protected, and in another the very idea of citizenship can be used against them. This is what it means to live in a proximity to a system like this. No longer, not while the eye spins. You gather the recording, pack it into a polygon of purest light, and then you drift down into the service dock like a falling leaf, find the relay. It only takes a second to place that polygon of data, that recording, into the relay system, Feng prepared, and then you watch as it bursts out a web of threads, heading out into the black to every network device on the Eye. Let them see what power makes of a man. How many points we got? 2. Let's collect some spores while we're here. Hyphen Lab, deliver the spores. Sleeper, I have some of yours here, come see. She beckons you over to a heavyweight-looking console wired to a series of specimen jars, some of which contain your spores. What does it say? The spores you have here are a real cocktail. A selection of types from within the groves, but I've been able to isolate a few. She taps one of the specimen jars. Here we have Trichloma matsuke. Rico breezes through the Latin and Japanese pronunciation as if it was nothing. A species Solheim somewhat modified for use on the station. She brings up a panel on a console, showing a chemical composition, all gradiented bars and obtuse acronyms. This is the composition of Solheim-modified Matsuke spores. Modified? Yes, every species of the eye is a tweaked variant of Solheim's, of course. But that's not the point. See, this is what your Matsuke spores look like. They aren't the same. That's the conclusion, yes. She glances at the specimen jar as if it might have something to add. They're fundamentally the same spores, but they carry different chemicals, different signals. Solheim may have introduced their own tweaked versions in the beginning, but the groves here have and still are affecting them. Do they still grow? Exactly. What I wondered. She moves to another desk where two trays sit side by side. The first contains nothing but plant mulch. The second you smell before you even look at it. The pungent aroma of fruiting Matsuke, like rotting sodden overalls laced with an edge of spice. The Matsuke here are grown from Solheim stocks, pulled from a spore vault in this complex. They are delicious, by the way. The empty tray is germinated with the spores you collected. No activity, no germination, nothing. But the groves are full. Yes, they are. So here is our puzzle, Sleeper. Spores from the groves won't grow in the lab. But gathering fruiting bodies from the groves is too unpredictable. We need to grow a fruiting body from some of these spores so we can track it, understand it. In short, I need you to become my mushroom farmer. Actually, I already started. Well, an eager mycologist, I'd never have guessed. I assume you set yourself up in the aviary? I've been eyeing that place up for its proximity to the groves. Bring me back whatever grows, not just Matsuke. There's more than a couple of variants there, so I'll need plenty of samples. These little things are reflections of their conditions. Their smell, their taste, their chemistry. It all derives from the conditions of their growth. Enough of these will have a picture of what's happening here, of ways in which this biosphere is modifying itself or may be modified, whatever the case may be. Don't worry, Sleeper. If this turns out to be a dead end, I'll make sure that not a single mushroom will go to waste. So you want Matsuke samples. I'll bring you a Girol sample. I can obviously just give you a load of these. I'm just gonna sunbathe, get some energy back. Do a bit of self-repair. Rico meets you at the entrance to the lab, leaning on a crutch with a glint in her eye. Walk with me, Sleeper. I'd like to tell you a story. She makes her own way down the corridor that leads back up the main commune building. When people first crossed into what we call Founders Gap into the Greenway, they did so against the wishes of Andre Erlin. At the time, Erlin was trying to stabilize the Union and establish control over the Eye in the wake of Solheim's collapse. It was chaos. Competing factions, failing systems, so many dead and injured from the riots. That was his priority. Erlin was interested in people, not plants. He was a pragmatist, and for good reason. Both crossed through a glass-roofed tunnel, the greenway outside crowded with vines and branches dappling the light. Erlin had written the greenway off, cut off from the rest of the station and linked to a broken spoke. He claimed it was only a matter of time before everything here would die. He refused to let anyone abandon their duty to the Union and cross. They were traitors to the cause, or as good as. There weren't many of us, but we believed what was here was worth saving. We had to keep our plans secret until we crossed, and some of us left people behind. It's difficult to know if from effort or emotion. What we found was a disaster, nothing like what you see here. Half of the greenway was leaking oxygen into space, the plants flash frozen. The other half was a swamp of mulch as decaying matter clogged every system. We worked hard, we lost good people, we cleaned up and closed up. but it was never going to be enough. After many, many cycles, we all knew this place was doomed, but we kept on working, talking less and less because we couldn't face it. We all developed a death wish. If the Greenway was going to die, so would we. So what changed? Everything. We crossed some invisible boundary, tipped some biological scale, and the Greenway started to recover. Plants flowered, crops sprouted. For the first time, we reaped the fruits of our labour. We thought it was us that we managed to do just enough to end the cycle of decay. I thought we'd saved the Greenway until today. You pass into the grow beds of the commune, rich with the hustle and bustle of Haifa members, planting and harvesting. For a little while, Rico is quiet, and you both simply observe the hypnotic movements of the work crews, the eager chatter washing over you like a wave. I should have known, of course, that our arrogance was unfounded, but we needed to believe back then. We needed a myth to bring more people across the gap. Rico following some direction unknown to you. What you have shown me is that back then the Greenway saved us, not the other way around. Tell me, have you ever consumed one of the Matsuke or Girol caps you have been growing? I imagine they were delicious, nutritious, almost uniquely so. After all, they were designed for you. At first, I thought it was the location they were grown in that made the mushrooms from that aviary, from the labs or from the grove, different to each other. But what I've come to understand is that it is the person growing them. The Matsuke and Girol caps you brought me are totally unique, containing compounds never usually found in similar specimens in my possession. Many of these compounds aren't even digestible for humans. But for a sleeper like you, Rico smiles as she leads you into the internal garden of the commune, where the Haifa members have planted species from all over the Greenway. Back when the tide turned, when the Greenway started to recover, we all felt something, a response. As if this place was not just alive as a forest is alive, but alive in other ways. Communicative, responsive. We shrugged it off at the time, but now I understand why. This place is responding to us, adapting itself to us. It is growing fruiting bodies for you, for me. It is adapting, changing. It is, in short, displaying all the signs of sentience. Perhaps not the Greenway, but the ecosystem itself, or something within it. Rico sits on a bench within the peaceful gardens and gestures for you to join her. When you have been growing the Girols and the Matsukes and the Aviary, those species so familiar to the Greenway, have you discovered any others? Yes. I should like to see those. Please bring me some the next time you are here. You look around the garden maze with you, sounds Rico. There's a species of mushroom that I haven't seen in years. It is dark, short, shaped like a club. We first found it in these early days when we were working to save the place. It was around the time we started to lose our first members. They were succumbing to some infection, some mould growing deep in the dark mulch that drowned this place. At that point we thought we were lost, and then those mushrooms emerged from that same black mould. We tested them, saw that they contained some compounds that counteracted the mould. They contained an antidote. Of course, as a botanist, I saw this as part of the natural process of the ecosystem, but the timescales seemed absurdly short. But what I'm wondering if that antidote was a gift. Perhaps if you are patient, you will receive your gift too, Sleeper. You both sit for a while, Rico seemingly done telling stories for today. You watch the light playing off the leaves and plants around you and wonder what forces could be at play in this place. And after a while, you stand and leave, with a quiet nod to Rico, leaving her to her memories. So she wants club head samples. But that is probably a good time to leave it for today. So thanks for watching, YouTube. I'll catch you later.